This is the Ramayan of Valmíkí, translated into English verse by Ralph T.H. Griffith, M.A. Courtesy of Project Gutenberg, this version is Book 1, Cantos 1, 2, and 3. Canto 1, Narad, Om. To sainted Narad, prince of those whose lore in words of wisdom flows, whose constant care and chief delight were scripture and ascetic rite. The good Valmíkí, first and best of hermit saints, these words addressed. In all of this world, I pray to thee, who is virtuous, heroic, and true, firm in his vows of grateful mind, to every creature good and kind, bounteous and holy, just and wise, alone most fair to all men's eyes, devoid of envy, firm and sage, whose tranquil soul ne'er yields to rage, whom when his warrior wrath is high, do gods embattled fear and fly, whose noble might and gentle skill the triple world can guard from ill. Who is the best of princes he, who loves his people's good to see? The store of bliss, the living mind, where brightest joys and virtues shine, Queen Fortune's best and dearest friend, whose steps her choicest gifts attend. Who may the sun and moon compare with Indra, Vishnu, fire and air? Grant, Saint Divine, the boon I ask, for thee I ween an easy task, to whom the power is given to know if such a man breathe here below. Then Narad, clear for whose eye the present, past, and future lie, made ready answer. Hermit, where are graces found so high and rare? Yet listen, and my tongue shall tell, in whom alone these virtues dwell. From old Ishvaku's line he came, known to the world by Rama's name. When with soul subdued, a chief of might, in scripture versed in glory bright, his steps in virtue's paths are bent, obedient, pure, and eloquent. In each emprise he wins success, and dying foes his power confess. Tall and broad-shouldered, strong of limb, Fortune has set her mark on him. Graced with a conch shell's triple line, his throat displays the auspicious sign. High destiny is clear impressed on massive jaw and ample chest. His mighty shafts he truly aims, and foemen in the battle tames. Deep in the muscle, scarcely shown, embedded lies his collarbone. His lordly steps are firm and free. His strong arms reach below his knee. All fairest graces join to deck his head, his brow, his stately neck, and limbs in fair proportions set. The manliest form e'er fashioned yet, graced with each high imperial mark. His skin is soft and lustrous dark. Large are his eyes that sweetly shine, with majesty almost divine. His plighted word he ne'er forgets, on erring sense a watch he sets. By nature wise, his teacher's skill has trained him to subdue his will. Good, resolute, and pure, and strong. He guards mankind from scathe and wrong, and lends his aid and ne'er his vain, the cause of justice to maintain. Well has he studied o'er and o'er the Vedas and their kindred lore. Well skilled is he the bow to draw, well trained in arts and versed in law, high souled and meet for happy fate, most tender and compassionate, the noblest of all lordly givers, whom good men follow as the rivers follow the king of floods, the sea. So liberal, so just is he, the joy of Queen Kaushalya's heart. In every virtue he has part, firm as Himalaya's snowy steep, unfathomed like the mighty deep, the peer of Vishnu's power and might, and lovely as the Lord of night, patient as earth but roused to ire, fierce as the world destroying fire, in bounty like the Lord of gold, and justice self in human mold. With him his best and eldest son, by all his princely virtues won, King Dasharatha willed to share his kingdom as the regent heir. But when Kaikeyi, youngest queen, with eyes of envious hate and had seen the solemn pomp and regal state, prepared the prince to consecrate, she bade the hapless king bestow 2 gifts he promised long ago, that Rama to the woods should flee, and that her child the heir should be. By chains of duty firmly tied, the wretched king perforce complied. Rama to please Kaikeyi went, obedient forth to banishment. Then Lakshman's truth was nobly shown. Then were his love and courage known. When for his brother's sake he dared all perils and his exile shared, and Sita, Rama's darling wife, loved even as he loved his life, whom happy marks combined to bless a miracle of loveliness. Of Janak's royal lineage sprung, most excellent of women clung to her dear Lord like Rohini, rejoicing the moon to be. The king and people sad of mood, the hero's car a while pursued. But when Prince Rama lighted down at Sringavera's pleasant town, where Ganga's holy waters flow, he bade his driver turn and go. Guha Nashada's king he met, and on the farther bank was set. Then on from wood to wood they strayed, o'er many a stream through constant shade, as Bharadvaja bade them till they came to Chitrakuti's hill. And Rama there with Lakshman's aid a pleasant little cottage made, and spent his days with Sita dressed in coat of bark and deerskin vest, and Chitrakuta grew to be as bright with those illustrious 3 as Mero's sacred peaks that shine with glory when the gods recline. Beneath them Siva's self between, the Lord of gold and beauty's queen. The aged king for Rama pined, and for the skies the earth resigned. Bharat, his son, refused to reign, though urged by all the twice born train. Forth to the woods he fared to meet. His brother fell before his feet and cried, "Thy claim all men allow. O come, our Lord and King be thou." But Rama nobly chose to be observant of his sire's decree. He placed his sandals in his hand, a pledge that he would rule the land, and bade his brother turn again. Then Bharat, finding prayer was vain, the sandals took and went away. Nor in Ayodhya's would he stay, nor in Ayodhya would he stay, but turned to Nandingrama, where he ruled the realm with watchful care, still longing eagerly to learn tidings of Rama's safe return. Then, lest the people should repeat their visit to his calm retreat, away from Chitrakota's hill, fared Rama ever onward till beneath the shady trees he stood of Dandaka's primeval wood. Virada, giant fiend, he slew, and then Agastya's friendship grew. Counseled by him, he gained the sword and bow of Indra, heavenly lord, a pair of quivers too that bore of arrows and exhaustless store. While there he dwelt in greenwood shade, the trembling hermits sought his aid and bade him with his sword and bow destroy the fiends who worked them woe. To come like Indra, strong and brave, a guardian god to help and save, and Rama's falcon left its trace, deep cut on Supranaka's face. A hideous giantess who came, burning for him with lawless flame. Their sisters' cries the giants heard, and vengeance in each bosom her stirred. The monster of the triple head, and Dushan to the contest sped. But they and myriad fiends beside, beneath the might of Rama, died. When Ravan, dreaded warrior, knew the slaughter of his giant crew, Ravan, the king, whose name of fear earth, hell, and heaven all shook to hear, he bade the fiend Maricha aid the vengeful plot his fury laid. In vain the wise Maricha tried to turn him from his course aside. Not Ravan's self, he said, might hope with Rama and his strength to cope. Impelled by fate and blind with rage, he came to Rama's hermitage. There by Maricha's magic art, he wiled the princely youths apart. The vulture slew and bore away the wife of Rama as his prey. The son of Raghu came and found Jatayu slain upon the ground. He rushed within his leafy cot. He sought his wife but found her not. Then the hero's senses failed. In mad despair he wept and wailed. Upon the pile that bird he laid, and still in quest of Sita strayed. A hideous giant then he saw, Kavanda, named a shape of awe. The monstrous fiend he smote and slew, and in the flame the body threw. When straight from out of the funeral flame, in lovely form Kabanda came, and bade him seek in his distress a wise and holy hermitess. By counsel of this saintly dame, to Pampa's pleasant flood he came, And there the steadfast friendship won of Hanuman, the wind god's son. Counseled by him, he told his grief to great Sugriva, Vanar chief, who knowing all the tale before, the sacred flame alliance swore. Sugriva to his newfound friend told his own story to the end, his hate of Bali for the wrong and insult he had borne so long. And Rama lent a willing ear and promised to allay his fear. Sugriva warned him of the might of Bali matchless in the fight, and credence for his tale to gain, showed the huge fiend by Bali slain. The prostrate course of mountain sides seemed nothing in the hero's eyes. He lightly kicked it as it lay and cast it 20 leagues away. To prove his might, his arrows through 7 palms in line uninjured flew. He cleft a mighty hill apart, and down to hell he hurled his dart. Then high Sugriva's spirit rose, assured of conquest o'er his foes. With his new champion by his side, to vast Kishkinda's cave he hied. Then, summoned by his awful shout, King Bali came in fury out. First comforted his trembling wife, then sought Sugriva in the strife. One shaft from Rama's deadly bow, the monarch in the dust laid low. Then Rama bade Sugriva reign in place of royal Bali slain. Then speed envoys hurried forth, eastward and westward, south and north, commanded by the grateful king, tidings of Rama's spouse to bring. Then by Sampati's counsel led, brave Hanuman, who mocked at dread, sprang at one wild, tremendous leap, 200 leagues across the deep. To Lanka's town he urged his way, where Ravan held his royal sway. There pensive 'neath the Soka boughs, he found poor Sita, Rama's spouse. He gave the hapless girl, there pensive 'neath Asoka boughs. He found poor Sita, Rama's spouse. He gave the hapless girl a ring, a token from her lord and king. A pledge from her fair hand he bore, then battered down the garden door. 5 captains of the host he slew, 7 sons of counselors o'erthrew. Crushed youthful Aksha on the field, then to his captors chose to yield. Soon from their bonds his limbs were free, but honoring the high decree which Brahma had pronounced of yore, he calmly all their insults bore. The town he burnt with hostile flame, and spoke again with Rama's dame. Then swiftly back to Rama flew, with tidings of the interview. Then with Sugriva for his guide, came Rama to the ocean side. He smote the sea with shafts as bright as sunbeams in their summer height, and quick appeared the river's king, obedient to the summoning. A bridge was thrown by Nala o'er the narrow sea from shore to shore. They crossed the to Lanka's golden town, where Rama's hand smote Ravan down. Vibhishan there was left to reign over his brother's wide domain. To meet her husband, Sita came, But Rama, stung with ire and shame, with bitter words his wife addressed before the crowd that round her pressed. But Sita, touched with noble ire, gave her fair body to the fire. Then straight the god of wind appeared, and words from heaven her honor cleared. And Rama clasped his wife again, uninjured, pure from spot and stain, obedient to the Lord of fire and the high mandate of his sire. Led by the Lord who rules the sky, the gods and heavenly saints drew nigh and honored him with worthy meed, rejoicing in each glorious deed. His task achieved, his foe removed, he triumphed, by the gods approved. By grace of heaven he raised to life the chieftains slain in mortal strife. Then in the magic chariot through the clouds to Nandrigama flew. Met by his faithful brothers there, he loosened his votive coil of hair. Thence fair Ayodhya's town he gained, and o'er his father's kingdom reigned. Disease or famine ne'er oppressed his happy people, richly blessed with all the joys of ample wealth, of sweet content, and perfect health. No widow mourned her well-loved mate, no sire his son's untimely fate. They feared not storm or robber's hand, no fire or flood laid waste the land. The golden age had come again to bless the days of Rama's reign. From him, the great and glorious king, shall many a princely scion spring, and he shall rule beloved by men, 10,000 years and hundreds 10. And when his life on earth is past, to Brahma's world shall go at last. Whoe'er this noble poem reads, that tells the tale of Rama's deeds, good as the scriptures he shall be, from every sin and blemish free. Whoever reads the saving strain, with all his kin the heavens shall gain. Brahmins who read shall gather hence the highest praise for eloquence. The warrior o'er the land shall reign, the merchant luck in trade obtain, and Sudras listening ne'er shall fail to reap advantage from the tale. Canto 2, Rama's Visit. Valmíkí, graceful speaker heard, to highest admiration stirred. To him whose fame the tale rehearsed, he paid his mental worship first. Then with his pupil humbly bent before the saint most eloquent. Thus honored and dismissed, the seer departed to his heavenly sphere. Then from his cot Valmíkí hied to Tamasa's sequestered side, not far remote from Ganga's tide. He stood and saw the ripples roll, pellucid o'er a pebbly shoal. To Bharavaja by his side, he turned in ecstasy and cried, see, pupil dear, this lovely sight, this smooth, floored, shallow, pure and bright, with not a speck or shade to mar, and clear as good men's bosoms are. Here on the brink thy pitcher lay, and bring my zone of bark, I pray. Here will I bathe, the rill has not to lave the limbs a fairer spot. Do quickly as I bid, nor waste the precious time away in haste. Obedient to his master's hest, quick from the cot he brought the vest. The hermit took it from his hand and tightened round his waist the band, then duly dipped and bathed him there, and muttered low his secret prayer. To spirits and to gods he made libation of the stream and strayed, viewing the forest deep and wide that spread its shade on every side. Close by the bank he saw a pair of curlews sporting fearless there. But suddenly with evil mind, an outcast fowler stole behind, and with an aim too sure and true, the male bird near the hermit slew. The wretched hen, in wild despair, with fluttering pinions beat the air, and shrieked a long and bitter cry, when low on earth she saw him lie. Her loved companion, quivering, dead, his dear wings with his lifeblood red, and for her golden crested mate, she mourned and was disconsolate. The hermit saw the slaughtered bird, and all his heart with ruth was stirred. The fowler's impious deed distressed his gentle sympathetic breast, and while the curlew's sad cries rang, within his ears the hermit sang. No fame be thine for endless time, because base outcast of thy crime, whose cruel hand was fain to slay one of this gentle pair at play. E'en as he spoke, his bosom wrought, and labored with the wondering thought. What was the speech his ready tongue had uttered when his heart was wrung? He pondered long upon the speech, recalled the words, and measured each, and thus exclaimed the saintly guide to Bharadvaja by his side. With equal lines of even feet, with rhythm and time and tone complete, the measured form of words I spoke, in shock of grief be termed a sloke. And Bharadvaja, nothing slow, his faithful love and zeal to show, answered those words of wisdom. Be the name, my Lord, as pleases thee. As rules prescribed, the hermit took some lustral water from the brook, but still on this his constant thought kept brooding as his home he sought. While Bharadvaja placed behind a pupil sage of lowly mind, and in his hand a pitcher bore, with pure, fresh water brimming o'er. Soon as they reached their calm retreat, the holy hermit took his seat, his mind from worldly cares recalled, and mused in deepest thought enthralled. Then glorious Brahma, Lord Most High, creator of the earth and sky, the four-faced God, to meet the sage, came to Valmíkí's hermitage. Soon as the mighty God he saw, up sprang the saint in wondering awe. Mute, with clasped hands, his head he bent, and stood before him reverent. His honored guest he greeted well, who bade him of his welfare tell, gave water for his blessed feet, brought offerings and prepared a seat. In honored place, the God Most High sate down and bade the saint sit nigh. There sate before Valmíkí's eyes the Father of the earth and skies, But still the hermit's thoughts were bent on one thing only, all intent, on that poor curlew's mournful fate, lamenting for her slaughtered mate, and still his lips in absent mood, the verse that told his grief renewed. Woe to the fowler's impious hand, that did the deed that folly planned, that could to needless death devote the curlew of the tuneful throat. The heavenly Father smiled in glee and said, O best of hermits, see, a verse unconscious though thou hast made, no longer be the task delayed. Seek not to trace with labor vain the unpremeditated strain. The tune lines thy lips rehearsed, spontaneous from thy bosom burst. Then come, O best of seers, relate the life of Rama, good and great, the tale that saintly Narad told in all its glorious length and fold. Of all the deeds his arm has done upon this earth, omit not one, and thus the noble life record of that wise, brave, and virtuous Lord. His every act today displayed, his secret life to none betrayed. How Lakshman, how the giants fought with high emprise and hidden thought, and all that Janak's child befell, where all could see, where none could tell. The whole of this shall truly be made known, O best of saints, to thee. In all thy poem through my grace, no word of falsehood shall have place. Begin the story and rehearse the tale divine in charming verse. As long as in this firm set land the streams shall flow, the mountains stand, so long throughout the world be sure the great Rámáyan shall endure, while the Rámáyan's ancient strain shall glorious in the earth remain. To higher spheres shalt thou arise and dwell with me above the skies. He spoke and vanished into air and left Valmíkí wondering there. The pupils of the holy man, moved by their love of him, began to chant that verse, and evermore they marveled as they sang it o'er. Behold the four-lined balanced rhyme, repeated over many a time, in words that from the hermit broke, in shock of grief becomes a sloke. This measure now Valmíkí chose, wherein his story to compose. In hundreds of such verses sweet, with equal lines and even feet, the saintly poet lofty souled, the glorious deeds of Rama told. Canto 3, the argument. The hermit thus with watchful heed received the poem's pregnant seed and looked with eager thought around if fuller knowledge might be found. His lips with water first bedewed, he sate in reverent attitude. On holy grass the points all bent together toward the Orient. And thus in meditation he entered the path of poesy. Then clearly through his virtue's might, all lay discovered to his sight. Whate'er befell through all their life, Rama, his brother, and his wife, and Dasaratha and each queen, at every time, in every scene, his people too of every sort, the nobles of his princely court, Whate'er was said, whate'er decreed, each time they sate each plan and deed. For holy thought and fervent right had so refined his keener sight, that by his sanctity his view the present, past, and future knew, and he with mental eye could grasp, like fruit within his fingers clasp, the life of Rama great and good, roaming with Sita in the wood. He told with secret piercing eyes the tale of Rama's high emprise, each listening ear that shall entice a sea of pearls of highest price. Thus good Valmíkí, sage divine, rehearsed the tale of Raghu's line, as Narad, heavenly saint before, had traced the story's outline o'er. He sang of Rama's princely birth, his kindness and heroic worth, his love for all, his patient youth, his gentleness and constant truth, and many a tale and legend old by holy Visvamitra told, how Janak's child he wooed and won, and broke the bow that bent to none, how he with every virtue fraught, his namesake Rama met and fought, the choice of Rama for the throne, the malice by Kaikeyi shown, whose evil counsel marred the plan, and drove him forth a banished man. How the king grieved and groaned and cried, and swooned away, and pining died, the subjects' woe when thus bereft, and how the following crowds he left, with Guha talked, and firmly stern, ordered his driver to return. How Ganga's farther shore he gained, by Bharadvaja entertained, by whose advice he journeyed still, and came to Chitrakuta's hill. How there he dwelt and built a cot, how Bharat journeyed to the spot, his earnest supplication made, drink offerings to their father paid, the sandals given by Rama's hand, as emblems of his right to stand. How from his presence Bharat went, and years in Nandi Gramas spent. How Rama entered Dandap wood, and in Sutikna's presence stood. The favor Anasuya showed, the wondrous balsam she bestowed. How Sarabanga's dwelling place they sought, saw Indra face to face, the meeting with Agastya gained, the heavenly bow from him obtained. How Rama with Varada met, their home in Panchavata set. How Supranaka underwent the mockery and disfigurement of Trisira's and Kara's fall, of Ravan roused at vengeance call, Maricha doomed without escape, the fair Videhan ladies rape, how Rama wept and raved in vain, and how the vulture king was slain, how Rama fierce Kabanda slew, then to the side of Pampa drew, met Hanuman and her whose vows were kept beneath the greenwood boughs, how Raghu's son, the lofty souled, on Pampa's bank wept uncontrolled, then journeyed Rishyamuk to reach, and of Sugriva then had speech. The friendship made, with both which both had sought, how Bali and Sugriva fought, how Bali in the strife was slain, and how Sugriva came to reign. The treaty Tara's vow lament, the rainy nights in watching spent, the wrath of Raghu's lying sun, the gathering of the hosts in one, the sending of the spies about, and all the regions pointed out, the ring by Rama's hand bestowed, the cave wherein the bear abode, the fast proposed their lives to end, Sampati gained to be their friend, the scaling of the hill, the leap of Hanuman across the deep, ocean's command that bade them seek Mainaka of the lofty peak. The death of Sinika, the sight of Lanka with her palace bright, how Hanuman stole in an eve his plan the giants to deceive, how through the square he made his way to chambers where the women lay, within the Ashoka garden came, and there found Rama's captive dame. His colloquy with her he sought, and giving of the ring he brought, how Sita gave a gem o'erjoyed, how Hanuman the grove destroyed, how giantesses trembling fled, and servant fiends were smitten dead, how Hanuman was seized, their ire when Lanka blazed the hostile fire, his leap across the sea once more, the eating of the honey store, how Rama he consoled, and how he showed the gem from Sita's brow, with ocean Rama's interview, the bridge that Nala o'er it threw, the crossing and the sitting down, at night round Lanka's royal town, the treaty with Vibhishan made, the plan for Ravan's slaughter laid, how Kumbhakarna in his pride, and Meghanada fought and died, how Ravan in the fight was slain, and captive Sita brought again. Vibhishan sat upon the throne, the flying chariot Pushpak shone, how Brahma and the gods appeared, and Sita's doubted honor cleared, how in the flying car they rode, to Bharadvaja's cabin abode, the wind god's son sent on afar, how Bharat met the flying car, how Rama then was king ordained, the legions there discharged obtained, how Rama cast his queen away, how grew the people's love each day. Thus did the saint Valmíkí tell whate'er in Rama's life befell, and in the closing verses all that yet to come will once befall.